بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، حمدا يوافي نعمه يكافئ مزيدا. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك عظيم سلطانك. سبحانك لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك. فلك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في كل وقت وحين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد حتى ترث الأرض ومن عليها أنت خير وارثين. نويت تعلم وتعليم وتذكر وتذكير، ونفع انتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة، والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وبسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. قال الإمام المفسر المحدث الشيخ عبدالله سراج الدين الحسيني الحلبي رضي الله تعالى عنه ونفعنا بي وبكم في الدارين آمين، في كتابه سيدنا محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، شمائله الحميدة وخصاله المجيدة. وصلنا إلى الباب تحسينه صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم الحسن، وتنشيته على إتقان العمل وحسنه. قال رضي الله تعالى عنه: كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم يحسن الأمر الحسن، يمدحه على ذلك تكريما لمن أحسن فيه، وتنشيطا لهمته، ويقبح الأمر القبيح ويرده. رواه الإمام أحمد عن يحيى ابن الجزار رضي الله عنه قال: دخل نفر من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم على أم سلمة رضي الله تعالى عنها، فقالوا: يا أم المؤمنين، حدثينا عن سر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. قالت: كان سره وعلانيته سواء. ثم ندمت قالت: أفشيت سر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. قالت: فلما دخل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أخبرته، فقال صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم: أحسنت. قال في مجمع الزوائد: رواه أحمد الطبراني. وقال يحيى عن أم سلمة: ورجالهما رجال الصحيح. We've reached in the wake of the great Imam Rahimahullah Ta'ala, Shaykh Abdallah Sirajuddin, his praise, the chapter on his praise, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what was good, and his encouragement of thoroughness in work. The Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would always commend and praise anything good, honoring those who did good works and inspiring them to strive further. And likewise, he would condemn and reject anything deplorable. Yahya ibn al-Jazzar reported a group of companions of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to Salama radiallahu anha and said, O mother of the believers, tell us about the private life of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And she replied, his private and public lives are identical. And then she regretted what she had said, saying, I have disclosed the secret of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And when the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came home, she told him what she had done. And he Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Yani, you did well, and you did beautiful. The Prophet Sallallahu said, Salama anha, whatever she's privy to with regards to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam from a perspective is also a type of public life. And in public, yani alaniya, when you're doing something quote unquote in view of others, yani. And so what she's privy to is a type quote unquote of public life of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's just that it's less public than when the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam walks beyond the confines of the house of Salama radiallahu ta'ala anha wardaha. And likewise, it's not that the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is unaware of the exact acts of Sayyidat Salama. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, Rufi aliyya dunya that the dunya was raised before my very eyes. I rafa'ahu Allah. Because Allah Ta'ala raised the entire dunya before my very eyes. And the Prophet ﷺ says, and I see what is ka'in ila yawm al-qiyamah. I see everything that will occur until the day of judgment. The Prophet ﷺ said, and that includes quoted a'mal, the actions of Sayyidah Salama, radiyallahu ta'ala anha, wa ardaha. And so the Rasul ﷺ embraces a person as they are, and you did well, okay, because she was being herself. Ibn Hibban, rahimahullah ta'ala, narrated in the Sahih collection that Talq ibn Ali al-Hanafi said, I participate in the building of the mosque with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam radiyallahu anhu, and I began to shovel the clay mixture. This seemed to please him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for he said, leave the clay to the Hanafi, for he is the most skilled of you, all with it. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And again, this is the love of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for somebody having itqan. And but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yuhibbu lil-abdi idha amila shay'an yutqina. But Allah ta'ala loves that when a slave does something, he perfects that which he does. He's good at it. As in the other tradition, in Allah katab al-ihsana ala kulli shay'in, that Allah ta'ala has decreed, prescribed ihsan, excellence in everything. And so here the Prophet's eyes not only always attracted to that which is good, but attracted to that which is at the end of the continuum of good, and perfection and excellence. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And Ibn Sa'ad rahimahullah ta'ala narrates in his Tabaqat that Talq said, I approached the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam whilst he was building his mosque, and the Muslims were working alongside him. I was skilled in preparing and mixing clay, and so I took up the spade and began to mix it. So the Messenger of Allah looked at me and said, this Hanafi is skilled with clay. Immediately the Rasul saw the eyes of perfection, sees perfection. The Prophet ﷺ would encourage precision and excellence in any work. Sayyidat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha reported that he ﷺ said, Allah Almighty loves that. If any of you do any work, he excels therein. Bayhaqi narrates on the authority of Shihab that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah Almighty loves for the worker to excel in his craft. Okay? That we have to learn. Likewise also his seeking ﷺ of his companions' counsel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, seek their counsel in the conduct of affairs. And when you resolve for your trust in Allah, and Allah loves those who put their trust in Him. And regardless of the nature, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, برحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فاضل غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that if it was not for the mercy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it was by virtue of that linta lahum, that you were gentle with them. Had you been harsh and hard-hearted, then they were fled from around you. Okay, so now Allah Ta'ala says, but pardon them. Which shows you now you're dealing with people who quote what have not yet risen to the degree of excellence, the degree of perfection, the degree of purity that is warranted for all those in the environment of the Prophet ﷺ, not yet. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now, revealing to the Prophet ﷺ how that will come about. First and foremost, overlook all the wrongs that they do. And likewise, not just overlook it, seek forgiveness for them. Those same people who are you're overlooking or you're seeking forgiveness for, they're the ones now we also want you to take their good counsel. And so if you look at that, the adab of the Prophet ﷺ, it's not like he's taken the good counsel from people who are perfect and pure at this point in time. But no doubt they're embedded upon the road to becoming such, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, wa ardahum. Seek their counsel in the conduct of affairs, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. By this, Allah ta'ala commanded his Prophet ﷺ to seek counsel in those matters that still required consultation. The language of the verse implied that only after this consultation had led his heart to be resolved on a certain course was he to take that course and trust in Allah. Allah ta'ala commanded his Prophet ﷺ to seek counsel from the sagacious and wise of his companions in such matters as required it, despite the fact that their intellects compared with his, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whereas the light of a distant star is compared to the brightness of the mid-morning sun. And there are several underlying reasons as to why he did this, subhana. Firstly, it was to lift their spirits, so if they followed a particular course in battle, for example, they would do so willingly, with high spirits, because they have a sense of ownership, they've invested in it, because their opinions, quote unquote, are part of what has now laid that course bare. Qatada said, Allah Jalla fil Ula commanded his Prophet ﷺ to consult his companions, even though he was visited by divine revelation. He's revealed to unto by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only is he revealed unto by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but yastahil alayhi al-khata'. It's impossible for the Prophet ﷺ to make a mistake. Yani, when somebody's infallible, why would they need to go seek counsel? Yani? Like whatever course they take, it cannot be wrong. Yani. Cannot. Yani. Okay? And so Hakadar, he says, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, Allah commanded his Prophet to consult his companions, even though he was visited by divine revelation, because it said better to lift the people's spirits. Secondly, it was to strengthen their opinions. For if their opinions were in agreement with his, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they would derive strength from him. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, narrated in the Fajr Abdurrahman ibn Ghanam, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said to Abu Bakr and to Umar, if you two were to agree with one another in your counsel, I would not disagree with you. Sure, if they were to agree, because their agreement would concur with the opinion of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's similar to what ummati la tajtami'u ala dhalala. Now, my ummah cannot concur upon error. Whatever the ummah concurs upon, that is kalam al-nabi. Yani. That has to be kalam al-nabi. It has to be the word of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Yani, thirdly, it was so that such would be the practice of his community after him. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Bayhaqi narrated that Hasan radiallahu anhu said, commenting on this verse, Allah Ta'ala knew that his messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had no need of them, but he wanted those who came after him to follow his example, because he's muqtada. Ibn Uday and Bayhaqi narrated with a sound chain of transmission that Ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhuma said, when the verse seek their counsel fil amr was revealed, that the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, indeed Allah and his messenger have no need for this, but Allah Ta'ala ordained it as a mercy to my community. Whosoever seeks their counsel will not be bereft of guidance, and whosoever leaves it will not be free of error. Okay? And Mustashar Mu'taman, it's one of the ways, as in the Qa'id of the Prophet ﷺ, that the one in whom counsel is sought, then security is guaranteed. Yani. Okay, a lot of times we secure, quote unquote, and we become safe by virtue of seeking counsel in others. So it's like an istikhara. An istikhara, thumma al-istishara. You take istikhara, now you ask for the choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be laid bare, to be laid plain for you in any given matter over which you hold an element or a modicum of doubt. And thereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost makes his choice clear in the opinions, the counsel that you seek from others. So you make istikhara, thumma al-istishara. And then you go and seek the counsel, because there you will see now the beginnings of the manifestation of the choice of the divine. Jalla Jalaluhu wa ta'ala ta'azamatuh. Fourthly, the seeking of counsel shows appreciation for the one consulted and acknowledges their position and gives them the freedom to express their opinion. The one consulted feels that he or she is respected and that he has a responsibility to live up to as a sincere advisor. In contrast, autocracy fails to recognize people of wisdom and sagacity and makes slaves out of free men. Because of this, the Prophet ﷺ would often seek the counsel of his companions. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala narrated that Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu ardahu said, I never saw anyone more frequently in consultation with the companions than the Messenger of Allah sallallahu. Okay. Fifthly, consultation is a means of surveying different opinions and strengthening minds and intellects, and by its means there can be ascertained the measure of a man and the extent of his knowledge as well as his experience. His enjoining sallallahu alaihi wasallam of the seeking of counsel, so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would encourage and enjoin the seeking of counsel. Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha and Abiha reported that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the one who seeks counsel is in need, and the one from whom counsel is sought is in a position of trust. So if counsel is sought from any of you, let his advice be that which he himself would do. As the scholars have said, counsel means to extract the finest and purest notions from the innermost heart, just as beekeepers extract honey. One tradition has it, prune your intellects with conversation and seek help in your affairs with consultation. The scholars have stated that a person suitable to be asked for advice and counsel must be trustworthy, respected, sincere, and self-possessed, and must not be conceited, fickle, or dishonest. Some scholars also add that he must not be overly interested in the matter concerning which his counsel is sought, lest they be swayed by his passions, and he must not be ascetical, for he who does not know of this world cannot be asked to give counsel concerning it, and he must not be infatuated with this world, for this will corrupt his opinions, and he must not be miserly. Abu Mas'ud reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, the one from whom counsel is sought is in a position of trust, and he has a choice. If he wishes, he may speak, and if he wishes, he may be silent. If he should speak, he must exert great effort in reaching his opinion. Imam Tabarani rahimahullah ta'ala narrated in the authority of Anas radiallahu ta'ala anhu an ummih, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, he who seeks guidance will not be disappointed, and he who seeks counsel will not regret it. He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would acknowledge sound ideas and act upon them. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would acknowledge the soundness of any good idea anyone would present to him, and would let it be known to all. By doing so, he would ennoble the one who would come up with the idea and encourage them and put value on their knowledge. This shows that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sensitive to the wisdom and purpose of ideas and the potential outcomes they could have. And so he would acknowledge those of them that were sound and reject those that were deficient. Ibn Sa'ad narrated in his Tabaqat that on the day of Qurayza and Nadir, that the Prophet ﷺ saw counsel. And Hubab ibn al-Mundhir said, I think that we should take up positions between the fortresses. And so we prevent each faction from communicating with the other. The Prophet ﷺ acted in accordance with this advice. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Tabarani narrated that Nubaysh al-Khair went to see the Messenger of Allah وسلم, while he was holding several prisoners of war, and said to him, O Messenger of Allah, either treat them kindly or ransom them. And the Prophet ﷺ replied, you've enjoined what is good, O Nubaysh al-Khair. The Tabarani and Sa'id ibn Mansur narrated in the authority of Talha that the Prophet ﷺ said, O Amr, you are indeed a man of sound judgment regarding Islam. We ask Allah Ta'ala for tawfiq, inshallah Ta'ala, yuwafiqana fi ma yuhib wa yarda. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from his beauty to overflow unto each and every single one of us, so shall we become from the people of ihsan and the people of itqan, and we've come from those who the knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam flows through, so that we become fitting, quote unquote, for counsel to be sought in each and every single one of us, such that we articulate but that which the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would articulate inside of a given instance. Tawfiq we ask from him subhanahu, as well as nadar, the gaze of the divine subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.